While we get started, we're going to give it a second or two and let everybody be able to join, get some coffee, get yourself comfortable for this webinar that we're going to go through. I kind of want to start off with just the webinar basics. So you probably noticed this is a webinar style meeting that you've joined today, which means that your video is off and your audio is off. We do that because we want to keep things a little bit more quiet so that everyone's able to focus throughout the call, but we do still want to be able to interact with you and chat during the webinar today. So this, we encourage you to get familiar with those kind of Zoom controls that you have on your end. So in your control bar, you're going to see an option for chat. And so that feature allows you to talk to us as the panelists, but allows you to talk amongst yourself. So feel free to do that. I would encourage you that if you have questions during the webinar today, to please use the Q&A feature specifically. That kind of helps keep the chat separate from the questions. That way, as I move through the content today, it's on my radar a little bit easier that someone's asked a question. And while we are kind of in this webinar style, I do still want it to feel like it's interactive for you all. My goal here today is to have you leave the webinar feeling confident about the new platform that we're on and knowing what your next steps are. So I want to be able to field questions as we go through this content. So again, my hope is that I will get questions, be able to answer them live. If you submit a question and you see that I haven't answered you yet, I'm likely just holding until the end because we're going to have a question and answer period there too. So I'll kind of go over more relevant things for everybody when those questions come up. But if there's something a little bit more specific, I might wait until the end so that way we have more time to address it. But without further ado, we're up to a pretty good participant number right now. So I think I'm going to pass it over to the Community Foundation team. Oh, you are Gordon. Thank you. What a great question. That's the part of my spiel that I was supposed to say and I missed it. So the webinar today is being recorded and it will be available on the CoMoGives site, most likely by end of day today if YouTube cooperates with me getting it uploaded in time. If it's not by end of day today, it'll be up by tomorrow. We also will have the slide deck that we're using will be added to that as well. So if you're more of a visual learner and you want to slow things down, you can go through the slides and kind of see the same content. Or if you like to kind of hear someone and walk through it with me, you'll be able to watch the recording of this as well. Great question. So yeah, now I will pass it over to you, Eric.
Great. Thanks, Natalie. For those of you, my name is Eric Sappington, and I have not met. I am the new Executive Director of the Community Foundation of Central Missouri. I started April 1st. John Baker, his last day was April 12th, and so I had a couple weeks with John, and so now he's off into retirement land and has given over most all of the reins to us. So I've got Janet with me, and a lot of you all work closely with Janet, and also Carrie is on this as well. And so we're excited about Mighty Cause. You all will recognize that Natalie is she's a go-getter. She's very timely with answers, and she knows a lot of what she's doing about Mighty Cause. So we're extremely thrilled that we've partnered with Mighty Cause, and Natalie just let us know that we have about 129 on this webinar, and so we're excited about that. We've got about 100 organizations that are in the pipeline as far as getting set up for CoMoGives 2024. So Natalie, I think we're ready for you to take a hold and roll with it.
Wonderful. Appreciate it. Cool. So obviously the goal of our webinar today, and I'll switch over to our next slide, is really going through like, what is this new technology platform, right? So I have, as Eric said, my name is Natalie. I'm a project manager over here at Mighty Cause, which is the tech platform, the new tech platform behind CoMoGives. And I've been working with Eric and team for the last couple months, really getting the site ready for nonprofits to come start registering and for you all to be able to do your next steps. Our goal today is to just walk you through the platform, have you feeling comfortable about what are things that you can do as a nonprofit administrator, show you some of the tools that are going to be really helpful for you, and then again, answer any questions that you might have that come up. So my goal today is I'm going to do a little bit of be in the slides, a little bit of being in our demo environment to kind of show you some things live so that it kind of translates a bit better. I did see that somebody has a raised hand. Unfortunately, I can't call upon you because you're not able to unmute yourself. So if you do have a question, feel free to write it into that question and answer feature that you see on your Zoom navigation bar, and I will be able to answer once that comes through. Perfect. So our first thing to talk about, right, is what is CoMoGives. And so this isn't really my wheelhouse. This is more Eric, but you all have been hearing from him and Janet and Carrie, the wonderful team, about CoMoGives. So you are here because you already have a bit of buy-in and you're already excited about the giving campaign, which is great. So CoMoGives is presented by the Community Foundation of Central Missouri, which are the wonderful folks that are joining me here on the call today. It's an annual online fundraiser supporting high-impact nonprofits in Columbia and Central Missouri. As you probably know, right now we are actively accepting registration for CoMoGives. So if you go to the CoMoGives site right now, and I'll show you this in just a second, there is a register now button. So if you are on this call right now and you have not registered yet, I would encourage you to do so. Registration is going to close at midnight on Wednesday, July 31st. So it'll be through the 31st, it'll be at the end of the day. So technically 11:59:59. Yeah, so go and register if you haven't done that yet. You do need to register to participate in the event. And then CoMoGives itself is taking place December 1st through December 31st. So we have a good amount of time between registration closing and then the actual campaign happening. What you'll be focusing on during that time is part of what we're going to cover in this webinar today. So creating your page, because that is something that is new for you this year, is actually your ability as an admin to log into a space, build out a page that really tells the story for your organization, and being able to share that with the public. So we wanted to make sure that there was plenty of time between this registration milestone and when donors are actually going to come and give. That way you have enough time to really build out your page and make it something that's meaningful and unique for you. So let's go ahead and get started. So how it works for nonprofits. So you must be a registered 501c3 in good standing with the IRS, or you can be a fiscally sponsored organization that is in good standing with the IRS. I know for CoMoGives specifically, we have a pretty good subset of organizations that are either fiscally sponsored or you are a chapter of like a larger affiliate. So you have to be one of those in order to participate. And specifically for CoMoGives, you need to be located in Central Missouri. You must register, so that's something that we just covered. And then the deadline again to register is Wednesday, July 31st at 11:59:59. So late registrations will not be accepted, so we want to make sure that you get in now. And of course, if you have any questions, the Community Foundation team is well versed in how to get everybody registered. I know I've been working with Janet pretty closely on some emails that have been sent out, so she's a great resource, but also us as the technology platform at Mighty Cause, always here to be able to help you if you run into anything that you have issues with. And I'll show you that probably in one of the next couple slides of how you can contact our team if you have any questions. So really briefly, for those of you who haven't registered yet, I know probably a good chunk of you on the call have, but if there is a set of organizations who's still kind of feeling out whether or not this is right for you, the first thing that you need to do is register. So you need to go to CoMoGives.com. You'll see there's a big register now button right on that main page of the site. You'll want to click that. And then before you start the registration process, please read through the instructions that are there on that page. Janet, Eric, Carrie, and I have put a lot of effort into putting together some instructions to really walk you through as an organization. If you are a 501c3, if you're fiscally sponsored, if you are a chapter organization, it gives you really the instructions of what you should do next in order to register. And so we have a couple registration questions that are actually coming through right now. I'm going to read them quietly to myself, and if they're applicable for everyone, I will answer them right now. If not, we might wait to the end. That way I can follow up with you individually. So I see one question that says, our organization has registered, but is there a way for individuals of the organization to log into the backend and edit our page? Fantastic question. That is actually what we're going to cover today. So yes, new this year is you have the ability as an admin to actually interact with your page and make edits on your own. So the next couple slides is where I'm going to show you how to actually log into the Mighty Cause platform and what options you have as an administrator to really build out your page. All right, these other questions are a bit longer and seem really specific to your organization. So I want everybody to know that I have seen them, and I likely, if we have time at the end, will answer them. And if not, I will copy all of these, jot them down, and make sure that I work with the Community Foundation team to get answers back to you, because they are kind of very specific to your organization and some things that you've been experiencing as you try to register. So just know I see it, and your questions will get answered. All right, so one of the things that I said I wanted to chat about really quickly, because Mighty Cause is new to all of you, is what kind of support do you have as a nonprofit participating in CoMoGives? So the first thing that I wanted to draw your attention to is that we have a lot of really great resources that are available on the CoMoGives site right now in what we call the Nonprofit Toolkit. So if you visit the CoMoGives site, you're going to see in the top left corner, I think it says for organizations. And if you open up that little menu, you're going to see a nonprofit toolkit, and also specific frequently asked questions for organizations that are participating in CoMoGives. The nonprofit toolkit is a really great place for you as an admin, because it has not only the ability to register for the webinar that we're having right now, but our next upcoming webinar that we have, and a lot of really great resources created by the Mighty Cause team that really walk you through all the steps of what does it mean to participate in a giving event, how do I use the Mighty Cause platform, and be able to answer some of those things for you. The second thing I wanted to highlight is how to reach out to our team if you need technical assistance. So you will notice that as you move through CoMoGives, there's kind of, we're in a bit of a Venn diagram, right? You have the Community Foundation team that's able to really support you when it comes to like fundraising strategy in your local community. When it comes to specific questions about CoMoGives and the giving event itself. On this little circle, you have the Mighty Cause team that is the technology provider behind the giving event. So if you're on your profile, if you're logged into the site, you're having issues with something not working how it's supposed to, or you're one of the people that's wrote into me already with questions specifically about something that you've experienced in registration, that would be something you go to our team for. Obviously, we both work together and wanting to support you as the nonprofits and make this process as seamless as possible. But there's kind of two different spaces you go depending on your question. Worst case, if you reach out to the wrong side, we'll just pass you over to the right person and make sure that your question is answered. But to reach out to our team, so the Mighty Cause team, you can fill out a quick contact form. And so let me actually show you that really quickly. We'll go to CoMoGives. So you'll notice when you're on the CoMoGives site, there's this little question mark that follows you around. It will follow you on the front-facing site, and it will also follow you once you have logged yourself in. This little question is actually a Smart Support Center. So if we open it up, depending on what page you're on, so if you are logged in on your organization dashboard, it's going to pull up support articles from Mighty Cause that answer questions specific to the page that you're on. So let's say that you're logged in and you're looking at your donation reports and you have a question about something that you're seeing. When you open this little question box, it's going to have like 5 or 6 support articles specific to like donation reports. So it's attempting to answer your question for you before you actually have to reach out to anyone. If you end up still having a question, you can click this little contact button here. What that does is it populates a contact form for you to be able to reach out to the Mighty Cause support team. So some of the questions actually that have come through so far would be great questions to come through the support team. Since you've asked them to me, I'm of course going to get answers to you, and I'll work with the Community Foundation team to get you there. But I just kind of wanted to show you how you can access that support form. The other way is that you can actually email us directly. So let's say that you're working and you don't want to go through that whole step. You can email our support team directly at support@mightycause.com. Or what's great is that we do offer phone support as well. So you can call us at 202-800-1618. Our team is available Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. We are on the East Coast, so that would be kind of in those business hours. And so then for all other inquiries, so if we're on kind of the other side of the house, specific questions for CoMoGives and the Community Foundation team, I've included here, check out the organization frequently asked questions, because the CoMoGives team put a lot of effort into thinking about what could nonprofits ask us, what information do we need to have available to them. So it's very possible that the answers to your questions are already there on this page. Or if you still have questions after reviewing that resource, you can reach out to Janet and Eric via email, and then there's also a phone support for them as well. So now while we're all here, right, the platform walkthrough, let's talk about the things that are new for this year. How do you access your profile page? How do you get things going for CoMoGives? So to access your dashboard, you need to be logged into the CoMoGives site. So you're going to go to CoMoGives.com, and then you're going to see, so I'm already logged in, so you're not going to see it, but there's a little option here that actually says log in. So you're always going to start on CoMoGives.com. You'll click the little login button up here, and you'll be able to log yourself in to the site. To access your actual organization dashboard, once you're logged in, you see your name. So you're going to click on your name, like you see in this screenshot, which is going to open up a little menu for you to be able to navigate. The top half of this menu is going to show the organizations that you're an administrator for. So it's very possible with the community that you're in that you might actually be an admin for more than one organization. I've seen that pretty commonly across the giving days I support. So if you have more than one organization you're an admin for, you would see both of these listed here under the organization option. And then you're going to have a listing that's just your name, and then you're going to see a few options underneath that. So one thing I want to draw attention to is that everything underneath your name, so we see here managed causes, donation history, account settings, that's all unique to you and your user account. So if I went into account settings, I'm looking at the account settings for me, Natalie. If you want to do something specific for the organization that you manage, you're going to actually click on the name of your organization, which takes you to your organization dashboard. So that's kind of step one. We go to CoMoGives.com, we click login in the top right corner, we access our dashboard, and then we go to our organization dashboard. So that's how we get in. Let's go on our next screen. So navigating your dashboard. So what we're going to do today is walk through a couple of the main components of what we call your organization dashboard that I think are probably most relevant to you right now. You'll notice there's a lot of things that you can do when it comes to your organization profile. We don't have that much time to be able to go through everything as in depth as I would love to. So what we're going to do today is highlight kind of the main areas that are important to you. And it looks like Eric has a hand up. So what do you got?
Natalie, there on the chat, Nancy said that she wasn't able to see what you were clicking on. I want to make sure that everybody is being able to see what you're doing before you go any further.
Yeah, can people see? Okay.
Okay, it looks like that they're starting to be able. Yes, we can see. Okay, sorry.
It's very possible. No, it's possible that that contact form, because it was more of like an iframe, it's possible when I opened it that didn't show to everyone. So if that's what happened, I apologize. Sometimes that Zoom doesn't share some like additional things. Yeah. Perfect. So back over here. So we're going to talk about navigating your dashboard. So the first thing is on your dashboard is the overview tab. And so I'm going to switch over here into, this is our demo environment. So we're going to use the Animal Humane Society. This is a fake profile, so I'm not showing you anything that you shouldn't see, but we're going to go through this to kind of walk through live what your organization dashboard looks like. So this is a perfect example of, I've gone to my giving event site, I've logged in, I've accessed my organization dashboard. And so here on the right, I can see my organization page. Here on the left, I can see my dashboard. Before we get too far into this, I do want to note to folks that this is our demo environment and I work for the company. So you're going to be able to see a couple things that might not be available to you on your specific dashboard. You might sometimes see a little, and let me go back. A little icon, and I know it's probably quite small. You might not be able to see it. It's a blue flame, and you might see that on some places on your organization dashboard, and it might be next to a word that's kind of grayed out. So the Mighty Cause platform, nonprofits use us to participate in giving events, but we do have some nonprofits that use our platform to fundraise year round. And so we have different features that nonprofits need in order to be successful for both of those types of campaigns. So the things that you see with a little flame and that are a little bit grayed out are actually features that are available to nonprofits that take part in our subscription package. I wanted to let you all know right now so that there is no confusion. Every tool that you have available to you right now is everything that you need in order to be successful in the giving event. If you decided that you really like Mighty Cause, that you had a great experience on our platform and you want to utilize Mighty Cause for more year-round fundraising, you're welcome to opt in in and pay for a subscription package in order to have these additional features, but don't feel obligated to do so. This is not an a la carte kind of process. You don't need to buy anything additional to participate in CoMoGives. But I wanted to draw attention to that. That way you didn't start poking around and think, oh no, do I have to subscribe? You absolutely do not. You have all the tools available that you need. So first, your organization dashboard. So that's what we have right here. I wanted to talk quick about your overview page. So this is the very first tab of your organization dashboard here on your dashboard. And so for all of you, you're going to see kind of these stats here are going to be 0 because you've not yet fundraised any dollars on the CoMoGives site and through Mighty Cause yet. And that's okay. These will populate as donations start to come in. What the most important thing that I wanted to show you is here is your what we call your to-do list. And so your to-do list is a very basic set of items that we believe are important to really build out your page so that it is dynamic for donors that come to the site and want to give to you. So it's going to prompt you to do things like completing your organization page, setting up your disbursement settings, creating a thank you page that donors will see once they make a successful donation to your organization. What's really great about this to-do list is that for folks that are new to the platform, the to-do list is interactive. So let's say I want to complete my organization page. If I actually click on, or let's say EFT setup. If I want to set up my disbursements, if I click on that option, it takes me right to the location on my organization dashboard where that item needs to be completed. So it really helps you be able to navigate and make things a little bit easier for you. In addition to that, so we can see this kind of condensed version of our to-do list right here. You can always open up a detailed to-do list and it kind of shows you all the items that we're prompting you to input. So, putting in your organization logo, adding a banner image so it makes your organization page look like it is branded towards what your organization is doing. Adding in an about section, adding in your thank you page. So I just kind of wanted to show you that first, because while this to-do list isn't necessarily required, it is a condensed list of recommendations of things that you should do if you want to have a page that looks engaging to your donors, and able to make you as successful as possible. So again, we have gone over that already, the to-do list. And then the next chunk of your organization dashboard, where you're probably going to spend the most amount of your time, is this organization page option. So this area here, organization page, is really great. And so this is new to you, right? In the past, you would have submitted information to go on a page and then someone would have loaded it on. You wouldn't have had a lot of access to be able to make edits if you wanted to kind of change that content or if something needed to be updated. What's great about participating on Mighty Cause this year is that now all of this information is available to you as the admin at your fingertips. So when we're on our organization page, you're going to see a little toggle for edit mode. So you'll know that it's on because right now, I don't see any way to really make any edits to what my page looks like. Once I toggle on edit mode, I have all these little icons that are allowing me to see what can I edit, what are the options that I have, and how can I do that. I have actually worked for a different technology platform that hosted giving days prior to coming over here to Mighty Cause. And what I love about Mighty Cause is that you have on-page editing capabilities. So when you come in here and let's say I wanted to change my name to Animal Humane Society of Central Missouri, when I save that, I now see a very true representation of what my page looks like to the public. So there's no like back end editing that then you have to go someplace else to see what a page looks like. You're able to see live what your edits look like and what your page looks like to your donors. So I think that's super helpful. When it comes to actually editing your page itself, you have two options depending on what your preference is. So option one is that if you're kind of like me and you like to peruse and see how things work, you can scroll throughout the page and click on these icons individually to make edits to those components. So, if I came down here and I wanted to, again, if I wanted to change my name, I click on that little pencil icon, I change my name and I click save. Another option you have is if you expand this quick edit area, you could click on, I want to change my organization name, and then it drops me down to where my organization name is to be able to edit it. So just kind of two different options depending on what your navigation preferences are. Talking a little bit more specifically about your organization page itself. And so this is really this is the face of your organization for CoMoGives. So my recommendation is always, make sure that this looks like it's branded to your organization. Make sure it tells a compelling story about, who is your organization? Why are you participating in CoMoGives? And how are these funds going to be helpful when they are donated to you? So as we can see, just some components of a page on Mighty Cause. First is the ability to put in what you see here, a banner image. So for the Animal Humane Society, it makes sense that we have an Animal Humane Society worker and then an animal that's in the photo, because it automatically makes sense that that is paired to the Animal Humane Society. You have the option here to be able to upload your organization logo. So again, a great way for donors who already know you in the community to land on your page and be like, oh, I've seen that logo before, like that branding, that makes sense to me. I have some recognition there. As we scroll down, I showed you this a bit earlier, you have the ability. So let's say that again, your name is the Animal Humane Society, but you go, or maybe you're the Animal Humane Society of Central Missouri, and you're like, that's a really long name. And if people are coming to the CoMoGives site to give to me, they know that I'm the Animal Humane Society of Central Missouri. So you have the option to have a display name that is different than what your legal organization name is. So I've worked with a lot of nonprofits who you might have, really lengthy names that you want to shorten because it looks better on a page, or you might have a legal name, but you're doing business as name is a little bit different. So you do have the ability here to make your display name be what donors would know you by. As we scroll down here, so we can see here that we have organization metrics. So what's great for your donors is they come to this page and they're immediately being prompted with, I have the ability to donate to this organization. If you want your supporters to be able to fundraise on your behalf and create peer-to-peer fundraising pages, you can have a fundraise button that is visible on your page. If for this year you decide that this is a lot of change moving from your old platform to Mighty Cause, and you don't think that you want to kind of take on peer-to-peer fundraisers because you don't have the capacity to support them, you can decide to toggle off that button. So the only thing donors and supporters can do is be able to donate to your page. So totally up to you. I will say we do have an additional webinar, and I am blanking on what date that it's happening. So I don't know if Janet, if you know, but we do have another webinar that I'm going to lead that we're going to talk about in the future, peer-to-peer fundraising on the Mighty Cause platform, and also using matching grants on the Mighty Cause platform. So today our goal is more so like, how do I get in here and what can I edit? Our next webinar that's hosted, thank you, July 18th. Our next webinar that's hosted by me is more so like, let's take this to a next level. So now that you know how to get into your page and make a nice page, what are the fundraising capabilities built within Mighty Cause that really can amplify your success for CoMoGives? So fundraising, that's one of those, but I wanted to show you how to turn on and turn off that button. And then as we can see, I won't go through all of this because there's a good chunk of this presentation that I still want to make sure that we go through, but I kind of just wanted to hit on some of these items. So because this might be new to you, we do have a real-time stats bar that will show on your organization page as well. So that will show your dollars raised and the amount of donors that have donated to your page. You also have the option to display a dollar goal if your organization has one. So if you don't have a dollar goal, you can always hide this feature. But if you do have a dollar goal, what's great is that this will also dynamically update throughout the day. So it gives another kind of visual component for your donors to see how you're doing, what you're trying to achieve, and how they can help you move the needle towards your fundraising goal. Moving down here into what we call your about section. So this will be the content that I think in years past you would have submitted to someone else and then had a page. So this is where we encourage you again to put in information about your organization, what you do in the community, why you're fundraising during CoMoGives, and what those funds are going to help you achieve. So we want to keep this kind of short and concise. We want to tell a message to our donors that are coming specifically for this giving event so they know what those funds are going towards. I've worked, like I said, on a different platform before, and now I'm over here. And I always work with nonprofits who have big, long stories. You have a lot of content that you want to tell because you're really passionate about your organization and what your organization does. And I think that's fantastic. A really neat tool that we have here at Mighty Cause is the ability for your organization, if you want, to create more than one tab on your profile to display content to your donors. My recommendation is typically on this default About tab to make this as specific about what you're doing during this active giving event campaign. And then if you have additional information you want to display to users, adding that on this like supplementary tab over here. So you can change the name of this tab. So let's say that instead, I think the history of my organization is really awesome. So maybe I have a newer nonprofit and we spurred because of a need in the community that we're addressing that is very recent. And I think it's important for donors to know like why we came about, when we came about, and what we're doing. So I could rename this tab to history, and then I could make a whole tab that just talks about the history of my organization. I've also seen organizations use this extra tab maybe to highlight like their board members or to talk about some other things like other initiatives that their organization is doing throughout the year. What I think is great about this 2-tab system is that by default, this About area will show to your donors. And then if they decide they want to opt in and read more about you, they can click over and read another tab. For donors that are just here for a quick experience, they're trying to read a little bit, they're trying to give, they're just reading the most important parts that we're trying to put in front of you on that About section. And then I guess as far as like adding content to the About section, this is very similar, most likely to any on-page editor that you've used in the past. I have you can see here the ability to bold. I can do all of my formatting options. I can change the font size. I can decide how things are aligned and what the color is. I will note that you just want to make sure that once you add content here, that you click this save button. Probably a good chunk of our tickets of nonprofits writing into our support team is that they're like, oh, I put in all this effort and nothing's there. And it turns out that unfortunately did not click save. So if you have any trauma inside of writing a paper in college like I do, and you forgot to click save, and now you don't know what you're supposed to do because you have a couple hours till it's due, you won't forget this save button. So yeah, make sure you click save. Good reminder. And then as we scroll down on the page, and again, I'll get through this really quickly, but you have some options of things that you can add to your page if you want to, or you can keep your page as simple as you would like. So here's a great example of, an additional element you could add to your organization page if you wanted to, the ability to show featured campaigns. So let's say that you have, I like that I just saw someone, I'm 100% guaranteed to forget to hit save. Claudia, I'm thinking about you and I'm sending you best wishes and that you will remember to click save in the future. I am a lot like you, so hopefully we'll keep each other honest. But so here's an example of fundraising campaigns. So let's say that you wanted to show some of your peer-to-peer fundraisers off and be able to highlight them. So as you just saw, I was able to see this hidden section, click that I wanted it to be visible on my page, and then see what it looks like. So there's no harm in kind of poking around, adding things, being like, I don't think I'm going to use that. Click this button and then hide it again. So what's really great, I think, about profiles on Mighty Cause is that I'm sure there are some organizations for CoMoGives that want to show everything, right? You have a lot of content, you want to use all the bells and whistles, that's fantastic. And then there's going to be some organizations that are more just like, let's cut to the chase, here's what I need you to do, I don't need to show everything on my page. So with a simple click, we can add features on, and with a simple click, we can hide features again. So again, just kind of recommending going through, looking at your page, deciding things that you like, things you don't like, and being able to hide them. While I'm not going to go into every single one of these components in like full detail, there are support articles that are added on our nonprofit toolkit that actually go in like line by line and tell you what every single one of these features does. So you'll be able to learn about that too. And some of them we'll talk about in our next webinar too. Today is just kind of keeping things light so that you know how to navigate. So that is kind of editing our organization page itself. Like I said, we're always turning on our edit mode. And then if we want to turn it off to see truly what it would look like to our donors, you can hide that. Another cool tool that you might not realize is you can actually condense your dashboard so that you have like an even more true version of what your page would look like for folks. And then also important to note is that your URL will just, when you're on your organization page, this would be the true URL for your organization to be able to share out. I'll show you in a second, because I do think I saw a question come through about someone that said, can we change our URL if let's say Animal Humane Society is showing up right here, but I'll actually known as something else. You can change your URL, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So the next part of our page that I want to kind of walk through that I think is important is our fundraising tools section. So this is a great example that I told you, kind of warned you about earlier. There are going to be some areas that are grayed out and they have this little icon next to it. So they're not yet, they're not available to you right now as just a giving event participant. Again, I have worked with tons of giving events on the platform, and everybody is very successful with the tools that are available to them right now. So you're not missing out by not having these. We'll go into these really quickly to kind of show you what is there. And again, know that in our next webinar, we're diving more into depth about these features, but today I'm just going to show you how to navigate. So in fundraising tools, this campaign section here would show you all of the peer-to-peer fundraisers that signed up on behalf of your organization to fundraise for you for CoMoGives. So let's say Natalie, yes, I'm a big fan of the Animal Humane Society. Maybe I adopted one of my many dogs that could pop up on the screen at any point during our webinar from the Animal Humane Society. So therefore, I feel very passionate about them and I want to help fundraise on their behalf. So if I signed myself up as a peer-to-peer fundraiser, made myself a little page that I'm going to share out with my community to help fundraise on behalf of the Animal Humane Society, I show up here as one of those listed. So you as the admin can see, oh, okay, awesome. Like Natalie's created a peer-to-peer fundraising page. This is the link to her page, so you can have it easily available to you. You can see what type of fundraiser they are. You can see how much they've raised. You can see the date that they actually created their fundraising page, when they published it. And then you can see if for some reason, if they've decided to hide it or if that's still visible. You can, if, let's say that we're at the end of CoMoGives 2024 and you're looking to see just like data on, how many peer-to-peer fundraisers did I have? What did they achieve? What's great is you can actually download a report of all of this information, so you can have that available to you. And then if you need to help anybody kind of create a page, you can also create a peer-to-peer fundraising page for them via this screen too. So we're going to have a whole training just about peer-to-peer fundraising. So like, what is it? Why should we use it? Why is it beneficial? Like, what's that process look like? So we'll go into all more depth of that, but I just wanted to show you where you'll be able to see that. The next thing that we'll touch on is you do have, I don't know how common this will be used, but if we go into this little widgets area, you have the ability to actually either create a mini donation form, a donate button, or a thumbnail that you can add to your like year-round, so your normal nonprofit site that will allow donors. So not only could they come to CoMoGives and find your profile page and donate that way in the month of December, you could actually add a button on your regular website that if somebody clicked donate, it would allow them to donate to your CoMoGives page through Mighty Cause. So again, I don't know, that seems like it might be a very advanced step. Like maybe year one, we're just getting used to a new platform, but I wanted to show you because there's likely some of you that are pretty big go-getters out there. And so this is where you would do that if that seems like it's something interesting to you. Again, if you hear that and you're like, that sounds wildly overwhelming, this is totally optional. You don't need this to be successful in the giving event, but I just wanted to show you where that feature would live. The next area, which again, we'll go into much more detail about during our next webinar, is matching grants. So if you do have any of that gamification component that you want to have for the giving event, this is where you would create your matching grants. It's really handy because you can see what matching grants you have live right now. If you had a matching grant set to, happen for the first couple weeks of CoMoGives, and then you have one for the second couple, you would see anything that was upcoming here in this report. And then down here at the bottom, you would see your past matches. Again, we'll go into a lot of depth about how to create them, all the really cool tools Mighty Cause has to make your matching grants be more interactive and to help really spur more donations during the giving event during that next webinar. But for today, just showing you this is where you would see, all the information about those tools. And then the last thing that I think is helpful in here is the ability to create fundraiser templates. So we have talked about, right, a user being able to come to your page and sign up to fundraise on your behalf. What's cool is that you as the admin, if you want to, can create a template. So that way, when that fundraiser goes through the process to sign themselves up, on the first screen, they'll actually be asked, do you want to use an available template or do you want to start from scratch? So I think it's really helpful if your organization has the capacity to do so, is you could come here, sorry. Talking too much. It happens when you go for too long. Give me one second. Extroverts that talk a lot, man, it's a tough life to be able to have. So you can click that button and you can actually create a template for your fundraisers to be able to use. So that way they have a less barrier to entry to really be able to support your nonprofit. So a lot of times you might have supporters that want to create fundraising pages, but maybe they're not super technologically inclined, right? That happens to quite a few of us. By creating this fundraising template for them, you're actually taking away one hurdle. So when they go through that process, they can use a template that you've already put together that has information that is helpful. And so really all they have to do is sign themselves up, be able to use that template, and then share out that page. So when we talk about peer-to-peer fundraising in that next webinar, we'll talk a little bit more about creating that fundraiser template and how to do that. And yes, so this is, I saw someone saying this is the kind of stuff we'll learn more about in the next webinar. Absolutely. So we're going to do a really big deep dive into kind of Mighty Cause, let's say like 1.2 or 2.0, right? So we're going to go from today, which is what's available, how do I see it? Next one's going to be, okay, cool, I really liked that and you got me excited. Now, how do I use it? Sorry for this just raspy little cough I have going on here. You're probably annoyed. Please forgive me. This next area that I think is really helpful to you all, and again, probably won't be utilized until donations start to come in, but we have this reports area. So you'll have real-time donation reports available to you as the nonprofit admin. A couple different kind of reports actually. So this first report, your all donations report, will show you all the information that you need to know about donations that have come in through your Mighty Cause campaign. So you'll be able to filter by, if you wanted to look at donations from a certain range, if you wanted to look at it for the last 30 days. So knowing that you are new to the platform, looking at things for the last 12 months, not super helpful, right? Because we don't have donations in the last 12 months. So year 2, year 3, year 4, these reports become even more helpful for you. But for this year, you'll be able to see all the information about the donation that's come in. You can filter by donation type. So you could filter to look at only recurring gifts, only online gifts. You can look at, certain types of donations that came in through your peer-to-peer fundraisers or donations that only came in through your organization page. You can search for a specific donor. So if you wanted to see if Joe Smith has already donated, because typically there's someone that supports you during CoMoGives, you'd be able to type in their name and it would pull up all of the times that that person had given. So your donation report, super helpful. Another one that I love is the recurring gift donation report. So that shows you all the recurring gifts that were made to you for CoMoGives and kind of gives you more information about what the cadence is and those types of things. And then one that I really, really love that, again, it won't be super helpful this year because you are new, but next year this is going to be something that's really helpful, is the donor retention report. So when we're looking at CoMoGives 2025, you'll be able to come in here, look at a list of donors from last year. So we can look at the last 12 months and I can see, oh, okay, this person is given again. That's fantastic. These 2 people haven't given yet this year. So it actually allows, the platform helps you use your data to better segment how your communications go out for that year's giving event. So again, this year, your information will be blank. There's no use using your retention report if you don't have any donations in through the site yet. But for next year, this really handy report will allow you to see which donors you need to target for this year because they haven't yet given. And then what do we have here? And then our disbursements report is probably another important one that will come into play a little bit later. And this is where once you start to receive disbursements for the gifts that you've received through CoMoGives, this will give you kind of a detailed line items of what those disbursements included, what donations were in there, how those fees were processed and everything. So that's where you'd be able to see more information about the funds that you're actually receiving. Back to some things that I think are more relevant, so they're going to be happening a little bit sooner that you probably want to pay some attention to is in this checkout area. So your donation form, you as the admin have the ability to set up custom donation levels that you can prompt your donors to be able to give to your organization. So something that I really encourage nonprofits to do, because I believe you all have access to your donor data from previous years if you would have pulled that from the old platform. So what I would encourage you to kind of do is you can look at that donor data and you can see like, what was the average gift size that my donors were giving me? You know, was it $25? Was it $50? Were they smaller gifts? And then you can really build these donation levels around how your donors give to your organization. So let's say that your average gift that you received for CoMoGives 2023 was $25. Well, then maybe for this year, you put 25 as your smallest recommended gift. Then you have 50, 75, 100. You try to grow those donations. What's great is that even if you put these donation levels here, the donor can add their own donation amount. So you're not kind of singling them out and forcing them to give a donation that's larger than what they want to give. You're simply prompting them with some ideas of larger gifts that they could make. Another neat thing about that you can do in here on the donation form is that you can add this description if you like. So for some of you, it might not be relevant to have a description related with the donation amount that you put together. We always, I feel like in the tech industry, especially in this space, we love animals and it's really easy to translate, you know, $25 goes towards a certain amount. Like it just shows your donors, like what could your money actually do? So if you don't want to use them, they're totally optional, but you do have the ability to kind of add in a description if you want to. The next area here, and I know we have quite a few questions that are coming in. I'm going to try to wrap up in a second. That way we can have a whole section for questions at the end. So know that I do hear you. I just want to get through this before we go into some of these really good kind of meatier questions, which might take a little bit more time. The next area here in the checkout section is your thank you page. So once a donor makes a successful donation to your organization during CoMoGives, they will be taken to a so pretty much like a confirmation page, right? So you go to the movies, you buy a ticket, you put to a page that says success, thanks, here's the information about your movie, right? So we have a similar feature kind of flow here on Mighty Cause. Once someone gives to you, they'll land on a thank you page that acknowledges the fact that their donation was processed successfully. On that thank you page, your organization can also put information about, you know, thanking the donor. So this is really that first touch of donor stewardship that you have for your nonprofit. And so we really do encourage you to put a little custom message. You don't have to go as far as to put a video if you don't have one, but, you know, just putting a bit of copy that says, you know, thank you for that donation. Your donation will go far for CoMoGives. You know, we'll follow up soon with more information about what your donation was able to help us to achieve. So kind of just something, that first touch point to the donor to say, you know, we see this donation, we thank you, we really appreciate it. Likewise, once a donation is made on the CoMoGives site, an immediate receipt is sent to that donor. And in that donation receipt, you as the organization admin also have the ability to put in some messaging that would be visible on that donation receipt. So in this area, you can add what you would want that custom message to be. And then here we can actually see a preview of what that receipt would look like if an organization gave or a donor gave to your organization. So it asks you to put in the info, you can see it. And then if you want, you can actually send a test receipt to yourself to see what that would look like in advance. And I'm going to try to, in the next like 3 minutes, get through this next one really quickly so that we have plenty of time for questions. The next one that I think is most important is probably the settings area here. So we had some questions about, you know, can I update my URL? So here's your answer. Yes, you can. So if we're in our settings, we go into the general settings. This is where probably a good amount of things that you might have questions about likely live. So here is where you'd be able to kind of edit what is specific to your organization in the slug for the CoMoGives URL. So obviously, like you can't change what the URL is for the giving event. That would be very dangerous if you all could just name it whatever you wanted to, but you can specifically name like what your organization custom URL is. So if I'm not the Animal Humane Society, but I wanted it to be AHS instead, I could change that and click save. I will give you the little kind of caveat though. I would recommend if you log into your page, so let's say you're already registered and you're like, okay, this webinar was great, I'm going to log in later this afternoon. Come in here relatively soon, check out that URL, and if it's something that you don't like, change it now and save it. I probably avoid changing your URL after you've already kind of shared your page publicly with other people, because we don't want there to be any confusion for your donors about, oh, well, I received this one, but my mom received this one. We don't know where to go. I would say make it kind of a you change it once and then it's done kind of situation. Um, the next thing that I think is kind of cool here is that you as the admin have the ability to put in a different search name. So when a donor comes to the CoMoGives site, and so we can come over here and I can go to search really quick. I can see a list of organizations that are participating in CoMoGives. And let's say, and I'm going to Easter Seals Midwest. I'm going to use you as my example right now. So let's say Easter Seals Midwest, that you know that that donors might type in something else to be able to find you. So if you weren't one of these first populated ones because of alpha order or random order, you might think, okay, they might type in like EM something, like you might be known as maybe an acronym. You might be known as something a little bit shorter. Maybe you're an organization that recently renamed itself, and so you anticipate some confusion where donors might come and type in your old name, but they're really actually looking for you now. So you have the option here in this alternate search names area to type in 2 different keys that you would want to also populate your page with if a donor typed it in. I think this is probably one of the most underrated little features here, because I think one, it can help if again, if you're in that scenario where you were noticed something else and you've now changed your name. But I think 2, even as a person who just uses the internet, if you could see some of the Google searches I have to put in until I find what it actually is that I was looking for, I sometimes wish that Google had these kind of smart ways that helped me get somewhere a little bit faster. So this is a really helpful tag. And then another little thing down here I was going to show you is, so we probably all, right, have copied a link at some point, put it in Facebook or put it somewhere on social media, and you see that there's like a little like pop-up like image and then usually a description of the site that you have shared. And unless it is a page that you own, you often don't pay attention or even care what that looks like. But you now are able to, over here on Mighty Cause, be able to edit what shows when somebody shares your organization link to somewhere that would show a preview, right? So if they post it on their Facebook and there's a little preview image, you can decide what you want that image to be. You can decide what you want that language to be. I will note that by default, this area will likely be populated for you, even if you haven't touched it yet. I believe it pulls in like your logo, and it pulls in some language from like your legal presence in the IRS, and like pulls in just like some generic kind of fluffy language you can see here. So it's likely that you might review this area and be like, hey, that looks great, I don't really care, just leave it. But again, you might be on the side of the spectrum where you have a lot of time and capacity. You want to make this page as kind of unique as possible, so you can come in here and edit that. And then probably one of the last things that I'm going to touch on really quickly is just this organization info area. So again, this is where you can review kind of your organization name. So if your legal name is something, but you're known by something else, you'd be able to update it. You can update your address. You can update, if you had to, your legal name. So this isn't something that should probably happen very frequently, but we do sometimes have situations where organizations go through some change and they have to update their legal name. You can do that, but that kind of goes through a vetting process with our team to make sure that that is true, and that we're avoiding any situation where someone has gotten access to a profile they shouldn't, and now they're trying to change all the information, right? So you might have to interact with our support team. And then the very last thing, and again, I know that there's so much here, right? And this is not the last time you will hear from me. I promise you might hear from me more than you wish. And at the end of CoMoGives, you're like, this girl is too much. That's how much I hope that I'm here to support you. So just know anything we didn't touch on today, we have one more webinar scheduled together. And also that nonprofit toolkit I talked about on the CoMoGives site will continue to change as we move towards CoMoGives. You know, if there are themes of questions that come in, I'll make sure more support articles get added. That way you all have all the information you need. But the very last thing I wanted to touch on before we go into questions is this admins area. I think this is super important, usually as like the first thing that you do once you're in your profile, once you logged in. not every time, but probably like the first time as we refresh every year, is making sure that the correct people have access to your profile. So for year one, this is probably going to be pretty easy, right? It's going to be yourself, and you might be adding more team members. For year two, when you come back next year, this might be you reviewing and being like, oh, okay, Bethany, she no longer works here, so we need to remove her, we need to add someone else. As I said, I've worked for another platform before. There's a lot of turnover with nonprofits, and not only turnover in your organization, but it might be turnover of team members that have different, duties. And this year they're paying attention to CoMoGives. Last year they didn't. Always a really good best practice to make sure that only the people that need to have this information available to them have it, right? Because this is donor data. These are things that we want to make sure are treated in the correct way. And so making sure that only the team members that need access are the ones that have access to your page. So just reviewing this. But yeah, so that's pretty much, and again, this whole slide deck will be available on the CoMoGives site probably in the next like 15 to 20 minutes. I'll have the slide deck on. The recording itself will take a little bit for YouTube to be able to process, so that will be in later today. But everything I covered today has also kind of been a walkthrough of these slides that you can see here on the slide deck itself. So I know that we only have 5 minutes left. I have longer. I always build in a bit of a buffer. So I think if we want to kind of go ahead, and I know Janet and Eric, you probably were looking at some of the questions. I can start looking through some questions now. I don't know if you saw any trends of things that you feel like you can answer, or if you want me to just kind of start reading through the questions and answering them as I can.
You go ahead, Natalie. I think we've done a little bit of the answering, and people have answered questions for each other, but you go right ahead.
Awesome. Cool. So, and again, I think some of these, if they are a little bit more like specific to just your organization and what's happening for you, I might screenshot those. I'll screenshot them, and I'll tell you that I'm going to follow up with you via the community foundation in a bit. But okay, so one of the first questions I see is, when will our page go live? Is it prior to December 1st? So once you've registered for CoMoGives, you have a page that is visible on the site. So if we're back over here, right? So I won't call anybody out by clicking on them, but Missouri Prairie Foundation already has a page that is technically visible. So they're technically already live, right? You as the admin kind of get to decide, when do I want to start sharing my page with the public? Then you also have an option, I think it's here in general settings. So if you've registered for CoMoGives and you're like, our page just doesn't look good right now, we don't want the public to see it, we don't want it to be visible really in that search area, you do have the ability to come into the general settings of your organization page, and you can turn off your discoverability. What that means is that it hides you from the search on CoMoGives. I will say that unless you have a real need to do that, you probably shouldn't, because if you're like me, you might turn it off and you'll forget to turn it back on. And then you're like, why am I not showing on the site? Why haven't I received donations? So I would probably avoid turning off your discoverability unless you have a really, really firm need to do so. But that option is available to you if you decide, hey, I want to hide our page. I have a goal to have all of my content on looking nice by the end of August, and then I'll turn our page back on to have it be visible to people. You could technically do that. But to answer your question, your page is, if you've registered and been approved, you do have a live page right now. I wouldn't say that there's probably a lot of site traffic on CoMoGives other than you all as the nonprofit admins. I don't think a lot of people have shared their page simply because donors can't do anything with them just yet. But your page is technically live already. That was a great question. I see, if we don't have a subscription, can people donate prior to December 1st? So we actually have donations turned off on the platform until December 1st, because that's typically how CoMoGives has always behaved, just being able to receive donations during that period. You technically could use your profile in a different way if you decide that you really like the Mighty Cause platform and you want to start fundraising through Mighty Cause kind of year round, and you want this to be your space. I would encourage you to actually write into our support team, because we'll be able to kind of talk to you about how you could fundraise through Mighty Cause outside of CoMoGives, but specifically related to CoMoGives itself, donations won't open until December 1st. How many photos can we put on your organization page? That's a great question. I don't think that there's actually a limit to the amount of photos that you can put on your page. I will say that when it comes to building out your profile page, think about the world we're in right now, right? Everybody's viewing things. You're going to have a good chunk of donors that come to your page on a desktop and on maybe a tablet, but you're also going to have a lot of mobile donors or viewers, right? So you want to kind of make this the best experience possible. So when you're thinking about how many pictures, I would say there's not necessarily a limit, but what you should be considering is what's that going to be like for a mobile viewer? If they're on your page and they have to scroll a ton to be able to get to the bottom, maybe we don't want to have as many pictures, right? So there's not technically a limit, but I will say that you should just consider from a design and user perspective, how many is too many pictures. Great question. Okay, we have a question that says, if donors give to multiple organizations at a time, does that impact what thank you message they see, or will they need to make those separate transactions now? No, so if a donor makes, and we encourage that, there's actually, I think it's a 300 donation limit in the cart. So like your donors can go wild, right? Which is awesome. So we encourage them to give to multiple organizations at a time. Those thank you messages will still appear, and those receipt messages will appear as well. So they'll be able to kind of opt into kind of viewing what they want to view. So yep, you don't have to worry about that. If we do create a widget and have people donate through this platform, will that also subtract the giving event fees? Yes. So if you create that donation widget, and I showed you that and I said it was totally optional, but if that's something that seemed interested to you, if you do create that widget and you add it to your site during the month of December, so people could give via your Mighty Cause profile or like through that donate button on your site, it's attached to CoMoGives, right? So the platform fees, any kind of fee that would be associated with that gift would still happen with that widget area. We have some good questions that I see one about tax letters. So I'm going to screenshot the one, I think Dinah. And you might hear a screenshot here in a second. I'm going to screenshot that one and make sure that we get an answer back to you, because that also might be one that I need to put towards the Community Foundation team to be able to see. So I'm going to mark that I've answered that live, but just know I took a screenshot of it, and that way I'll get an answer back to you. I see someone that asked, can you have more than one administrator? Yes, you can have. I don't believe that there's a limit to how many administrators you have, but again, I'm going to say that with an asterisk. Really, we encourage you to only have people be admins to your page that should have access to not only build out your organization page, but should be able to see all that donor information. I usually typically see teams of like 4 or 5 people, so 4 or 5 different admins, but you could have as many or as few as you would want. Just make sure that you're thinking through, like, does this person really need to have access? And then if so, yes, you can have more than one admin for your page. Sorry, we got a lot of questions, and I'm trying to see which ones are kind of the easier ones that might be applicable to everyone. Oh, okay, so we had another one about multiple administrators. Yes, so that was answered. I saw someone say challenge grants. So maybe you had a question. Oh, okay. Haven't only allows you to choose one challenge. This actually would be a question for Eric and Janet and Carrie, if you feel like you're okay being put on the spot. So we have someone that is going through the registration process. They say they haven't completed the registration form yet for CoMoGives because they got stuck on the last question. It only allows an organization to choose one challenge grant category. Their organization fits the criteria for multiple categories. So they're curious which should they select, or will they be considered for all qualifying categories like they would have been for last year?
Could you have that person email us, or whoever you are, could you email us, and we'll get you a detailed answer, and we'll let the whole group know if it's relevant.
Perfect. Awesome. So that's for Nicole. Awesome. Cool. So I'm going to mark that as answered live, Nicole. I see a question from Peggy about you're running into some issues with your registration. I'm going to screenshot that question that you asked. Peggy, would you be able to let me know what organization that you represent? Because I will go to our support team and see if there's some additional information that I can ask them, and that way we can try to get your experience wrapped up sooner rather than later. That way, if you can participate, you're able to participate. So I'm going to mark that as answered, but yeah, Peggy, if you want to write in either to the question area or if you want to write into the webinar chat so I can see who you are affiliated with, that will help me get a quicker answer to your question and be able to reach back out to you. Update a legal address since we moved to. I think a good chunk of these, and this is not to dismiss anyone because all these questions are wonderful, are really specifically related to like your individual experience with registering. And I don't want to share more information about you with everyone than you probably would want everyone to be able to see. So I'm likely going to take a couple screenshots. So Karen, I know you wrote in about your legal address. So I'm going to screenshot that one and we'll get an answer back to you. I'm going to mark that as done now. I see a couple. It appears that we need an EIN insurance letter to obtain a copy of it. Okay, Diana, I see your comment about the EIN insurance letter, so I will make sure that that is flagged with the team as well. Someone chooses the monthly donation. Okay, so I see someone that says, if someone chooses the monthly donation option, can we still use that function if we do not have a subscription to Mighty Cause? So when we were on the donation, on the checkout page, on the donation form, you would have seen the option here for someone to say they wanted to give one time or they wanted to make a recurring donation to you. So if someone during the December window for CoMoGives decides that they want to make a recurring donation to your organization, once donations turn off on the platform at the end of December, that recurring donation will still be able to be processed for that donor. So it won't cancel anything for them. It will still act like it's a donation that's kind of attached to CoMoGives so that they're able to make a recurring donation. It will still be successful. You don't have to have a subscription plan for that to be able to work. I know that it sounds a little tricky, but because it is a recurring donation, it would be allowed to continue to process even if the donation window was closed. Yeah, so that was two of those questions that we had, and we can answer some of that more in depth too, because that kind of seems like it's a trend. So that might be something that I work with the Community Foundation team to get more information out about. And then I think the last question that I at least see in the question feature, because I know there's a lot going on in the chat and that might take me a long time to get through anything that was asked there, but I see something about alternate search names. You have several search names showing up there. I'm assuming we would want to change this to just one name. Yes, Steve, I believe so, that you would want to just have like one name visible in each of those fields as opposed to several. You could always test though, and if it looks like you have like quite a few that were added to like the name one option, if you went to the CoMoGives site right now and typed in some of those, if you notice that all of those work and they do pull up your organization name, fantastic, leave it. If you notice that they're not working, then it is likely that area of the site is only accepting like a 1 or 2 word answer. So you might have to pare that down. But I would just say, yeah, kind of play with that and see if it works. And if it does, fantastic, you found a loophole. If it doesn't, remove some of those and then just put kind of in that one alternate name. And then I have a question about the monthly question. Does that make a 1-year commitment? So when it comes to this kind of recurring, so that's definitely kind of it seems like a theme here with questions. So I will say that this will be something that I'll bring up in my next check-in with the Community Foundation team to kind of talk about recurring donations. And if there's any specific kind of rules or parameters they want to put around that. So we'll kind of say that like, caveat that you might be able to do this kind of recurring option for your donors. The question that I do see is, does that make a 1-year commitment? So technically, if a donor wanted to make a monthly commitment, they could have that happen monthly for a year. They could cancel it at any time. So it really is up to the donor and how long that they would want that donation to continue to go forward. So I think that got me to the end of all the questions in the actual question feature. I know that there's been a ton that's come through webinar chat, and unfortunately, I don't know that I'll be able to go through and kind of pull all those out. I think that Eric has done a really great job of getting answers back to them, and I think other people have too. I don't know if Eric and team, if you see anything else that has come up that I haven't answered yet.
There are several in there that I don't think it's necessary for you to answer, but I tried to scribble some notes. I don't suppose you have a way to save the chat for us.
We might be able to.
And
Yeah.
if not, it's okay, but I would like to see that. We make sure that what you don't handle, we'll handle. A few things that I noted that Eric and I will put together a note to get out to everybody because they're more universal questions. I saw questions about thank you notes and questions about receipts and questions about disbursements. So we'll put together a note addressing those things and send that out to everybody. And then there were a couple of things I noticed that I'll email you about separately before we can answer those. But if I can have that chat, that'd be great.
Yeah, yep. I just saved the chat, so we should be good with that.
Awesome.
And I will say too, yeah, thank you everyone for being as engaged as you are today. A lot of times I'm behind this webinar and nobody talks at all to me. So it was nice to have all these questions. It was really awesome to see some of you ask questions and then other organizations answered them for them. So that's super helpful. Like I said, this was really a teaser, and it seems that the teaser worked because it spurred a lot of really great questions of wanting to go more in depth on some things. So this gives us a lot of really great information to know kind of what do you want to see in webinar version 2 and what things do you want to go into deeper dive on and learn more about. So thank you all for writing in and asking those questions because it's really helped inform us how we can support you better. And then, yeah, last but not least is I will have this slide deck itself up on the site in the next little bit. Again, the training recording itself will be up in the next day or two. And then, yeah, I took a bunch of screenshots of individual questions. So I will work with the Community Foundation team to get those answers out to you all as quickly as we're able to. But again, thank you everyone for attending. We really appreciate your time. Really looking forward to getting you over here on Mighty Cause, really opening up a world of opportunity for you as nonprofits to have more investment and more say in your participation. So again, really looking forward to see how that spurs your success for CoMoGives. So Eric, I don't know if you all have anything else to.
I just want to thank you, Natalie. You're the best. We really appreciate you, and everybody, I hope, got a good dose of Natalie today, and you're the real deal. So we'll get everybody their answers to the questions and get the recording